and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Football Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we will help you prevail throughout the 2021 fantasy football season. I'm your host every week, and for this show, Nick Giacobbe, and joining me, Cody Repass.
What's going on, Nick? 0.45 points from taking down the Millie Maker on Monday Night Football.
Cody came very close. Cody won big in DraftKings. So definitely check out our daily fantasy segment this Sunday because Cody's going to help you out and help me out. So hopefully we all win some money on Sunday. Our other co-host, our other teammate, Nick Capsalis.
How you guys doing? How was your waiver wire? How'd that go?
I got most of the players I wanted. I didn't get Elijah. I didn't get Elijah Mitchell, but I got the rest of the guys that I pretty much wanted throughout my 4 leagues. What about you guys? I mean, my issue was I couldn't drop anybody. My teams are I like 90% of the players on my team, so I couldn't really drop anybody. So that was the bigger problem for me when it came to the waiver wire.
I got fab blocked, and people knew it. It's in my home league that everyone knows. Like, I already lost Dobbins. I lost Irv Smith Jr. I had to overspend. A guy dropped Jonnu Smith to pick up Tyson Williams. He picked him up like 2 days before Gus Edwards. And so I spent like a quarter of my fab on Jonnu Smith because I had to have him. And then I was trying to get anyone and everyone, and I didn't get anybody. They all outbid me.
Yeah, I'm not in any bidding leagues for the waivers. What about you, Nick? Anybody?
So much fun.
I may have to do that next year. Maybe next year I'll do one. What about you, Nick? And what's your top waiver pick? Did you get anybody that you really wanted?
Yeah, I got Elijah Mitchell in 2 leagues. Was happy with that.
There you go.
In one. I picked up Jameis in a super flex. He'll be my third,
money.
Which is solid. And then I picked up actually Arizona's defense. I picked him up as a
I picked him up. I picked him up in a league too. I picked up Arizona and I picked up Cleveland against the Houston Texans. So the Packers defense can get out of here. I don't want to sniff the Packers defense again with their negative.
My bad.
5
I'll
points.
take the blame on that one.
Yeah. All right, guys. We have a really fun show planned for you guys. The Friday shows are always going to be probably our personal favorites. We're going to start off with some lock and flop and help you with your start sits. Then we're going to do a rapid fire start sit, 2 players from each of the games. We're going to get into our triple threat fantasy challenge that you're welcome to do with us. If anybody wants to jump in, it's a lot of fun. Next year, we're going to open up a league for it because we think it's a really fun idea. And lastly, we're going to answer your questions. We got 8 questions today. We're really happy with that. So hopefully we can help you guys out with your lineups, and hopefully our predictions will help you prevail this week for week 2. Before we get into the show, please watch the live show this Sunday on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. We had a lot of people last time. We had a lot of questions answered. I think we had like 20 questions or something. So hopefully we get a lot of questions again Sunday because it makes the show more fun when we get interact with you guys. And if you're friends of us, it helps when you jump in. I know Vic jumped in and said something like, should I start Mostert or Mostert? And Vic, you probably shouldn't have, but it didn't matter. My friend Chris Burns, the Patriots fan, jumped in and asked a Patriots question. My friend Joe jumped in. So if you're friends of us, jump in and just interact with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the more interaction we get, we will probably bring you guys up live once in a while. And there might be a chance we put you on video. So not this Sunday, but the more questions we get, the better it is and the more fun we have. So that's going to be Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. It's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time every single Sunday, including this Sunday. Cody's going to have to leave halfway through because he has some other obligations, but we will do a daily fantasy segment to start the show. So hopefully we all win money from that. And then we're going to keep answering your questions, talking about an injury report, and we'll see what happens. If this is your first time listening, welcome and thank you. Hopefully it's not the last time. You could find us every Tuesday and Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. And you can follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram at PrimeTimeFFPod, or on Facebook, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. All right, plugs are out of the way. Let's get into it. Locked or flop. Let's talk about these players that we think could be a lock or a flop when it comes to our fantasy roster. So we're going to start off with the quarterbacks like we will every week. We have 2 quarterbacks here that have been top 10 fantasy quarterbacks for just about the last 3 years, and we have Jameis Winston. So let's start it out with Lamar Jackson. He's the guy that I threw in there. Lamar Jackson had only, I think, 18 fantasy points last week. He's going up against the Chiefs this week, Sunday Night Football. Cody, is Lamar Jackson a lock or a flop for you this week?
He's got to be a lock, not just for me or for fantasy football, but for the Ravens. I mean, losing the way they did on Monday Night Football, that was a bad loss. Both teams were just incredibly sloppy, something you just don't see from the Ravens very often. He has to be on his top form to even compete with the Chiefs, and I think he's going. I think going home, I think he's going to be good. I definitely think he's a lock.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm locking in Lamar. I mean, regardless of the matchup, this guy won an MVP 2 years ago. He led the league in touchdown passes for all the doubt. He has that rushing upside of 1,000-yard season. Like, Lamar should be in your lineup unless if you have another safe alternative, in my opinion. So I'm still going to lock him in.
I put Lamar up on this lock and flop. We each pick a player just so you guys know a little behind the scenes stuff. I picked Lamar because he is a flop for Sunday Night Football for me. In 3 games against the Chiefs in his career, Lamar Jackson, this is rushing and passing, 4 total touchdowns, just about 707 yards total. That's not very good, averaging just a tiny bit over a touchdown a game, averaging about 250 yards total, which isn't good for somebody that both rushes and passes. So the Chiefs know how to stop Lamar Jackson when he's at his best. And guess what? Lamar Jackson is not at his best right now. He's missing his starting running back. He's missing his backup running back. The receivers haven't broken out yet. I know Sammy Watkins had a pretty decent game on Monday. Hollywood Brown is still there. He still has Mark Andrews, but Lamar's offense is not at the top of his game. So he has the upside to still be Lamar Jackson, to still be a 30-point fantasy quarterback. But when I look at the board, Joe Burrow might be available on your waivers, and he has an awesome matchup this week. He's going to light it up. Jameis Winston, who we're about to talk about, has another awesome matchup. He could be another 30-point fantasy quarterback. So when you're talking about a position that's so deep, I would bench Lamar Jackson this week, knowing what he's done against the Kansas City Chiefs. They might have his number. I could be wrong on this. He's still an elite quarterback. He's still a guy that could go out there and put up 30 for you. But if there's another option out there, I would seriously consider it, knowing the past against these Kansas City Chiefs. So let's kick it to Jameis Winston. I just spoke about him. He's a pretty hot waiver target. He had 30 points last week. I believe he was the quarterback 3 on the week. Nick, is Jameis Winston a lock or a flop for you against those Carolina Panthers?
He's got to be a lock. I mean, Zach Wilson in the second quarter managed to, put up some stout numbers. That's a good half of football from a rookie quarterback. Jameis is a veteran, better offensive coach, probably better weapons overall in that offense than the Jets do. So I think Jameis Winston, coming off that massive week, goes into Carolina and puts up another stout week with against that Panthers secondary.
I'm with you there, Nick. I think he is a lock. I think you're picking him up off of waivers. And if you do have a situation where you have maybe Big Ben's your quarterback, or maybe you're a little iffy on Tannehill, which I think Tannehill is going to have a good game against Seattle, but maybe there's a quarterback you're a little iffy on who's your starter and you want to slot Jameis in there. I think he's going to have a nice game. I think he's going to have 3+ touchdowns. He didn't have a lot of yards last week, but he didn't need to. I think he only had 180 yards, but I see him having 250 yards this game against the Panthers because their secondary – no good for the Panthers secondary. So I think Jameis Winston has a big game, and he's going to eat another W after this one. So he might give you a fantasy W as well. Cody, lock or flop on Jameis Winston?
He is a lock, but it is not by much. For me, in a 12-team league, I have him as a very, very back-end quarterback 1. I'm just worried that they're going to feature Kamara a lot more. It's going to be a more run-centric game plan, but with Jameis, all it takes is a couple deep balls. Unlike Drew Brees, he's not going to dink and dunk you. He's going to go for broke. And against the Panthers defense, he's going to be able to hit on a couple of those deep balls, I think. So he's he's a lock for me, but he's not the stone cold lock where you throw away the key.
That's fair. It's a good point. Now, with lock or flop, we're going to talk about players mostly on the fringe if you're trying to make that tough decision. We're not going to mention Patrick Mahomes. We're not going to mention Tyreek Hill because you're starting them every week. So we definitely wouldn't have a reigning MVP on lock or flop. There's just no reason to. They're still the reigning MVP. Aaron Rodgers is a lock or flop. And I just want to shout out this question here from Haley Schumann. Nick, I know she's somebody that, I hope I'm saying that right. But Haley Schumann was asking if Rodgers is somebody that we should be a little worried about, if this game, that first game was something that's going to happen the whole season and be a trend. So we're not going to answer that in the Q&A segment. We're just going to answer it right here with lock or flop. So Cody, you were very adamant last week that the Packers have problems and the Packers fans should not RELAX. So is he a lock or flop Monday night, Lambeau Field against the Detroit Lions?
He's going to obliterate the poor Detroit Lions. I feel so bad for him. I am worried about Aaron Rodgers. I really am. I'm worried about that team. They don't look prepared, but the Lions are the get-right spot. The Lions are the team that everyone's going to score 30-plus on. Their defense is really bad. They already lost their best cornerback for the year. I just, if Aaron Rodgers don't get it figured out on Monday night, oh my, it's gonna be a long one for Packers fans.
How about you, Nick? Lock or flop on Aaron Rodgers?
He's someone I keep teetering with because I felt like after week 1 there were so many quarterbacks that I felt more comfortable playing. But then you look at the matchup and you think it's going to be the Monday Night Football game. It's like he has all the opportunity in the world, but do you want to really put yourself through that stress? Is Aaron Rodgers going to deliver after last week? He finishes the QB 34.
He's going to swap. He's going to be QB1.
Cody called the shot. Cody called the shot that Aaron Rodgers will be quarterback 1 on the week.
I'm going Kyler Murray back to back, but we'll go.
I would love Kyler.
So Aaron Rodgers. I mean, obviously there is that doubt in my mind, but it's the matchup. I think you have to play him. And if he doesn't deliver this week, I think we're going to have a serious conversation about whether this guy, what the
he's
rest
droppable.
Yeah.
If he doesn't deliver against Detroit, he's droppable. He's literally droppable.
That's a problem. That's Jordan Love territory.
That's the worst defensive back or secondary, whatever you want to call it. That's the worst secondary in football. If he doesn't figure it out at home, this is back-to-back home games. If he doesn't figure it out against the Lions on Monday Night Football with the world watching, he's sabotaging that team.
If you told me to base his prediction off of his haircut, I would tell you Aaron Rodgers is going to be the 60th best quarterback this week. But thank God he puts the helmet on and we don't really have to look at that. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this week. I'm not as confident with Cody as being number 1, but he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Don't even think about it. Don't think about Rodgers. Don't think about Aaron Jones. Don't think about Devontae Adams. Your Packers are locked in. And if you have one of these 3 guys on Monday night and you're in a close game, or it doesn't even have to be close. If you have Packers, if you have Rodgers and Devontae Adams on Monday night and you're down,
have a shot.
If you're down 50 points, you're going to win. I guarantee you're going to win because they're going to slaughter them. They have to slaughter the Lions. They have to. If they don't, like Cody said, their season is just
it's a train wreck.
That's it. The last dance. The dance would have ended before the song started at that point. There would be no song playing because there would be no dance. The girl would have rejected every Packer. There would be no dance.
I'll tell you now.
Aaron Rodgers is not coming out of the ice like Steve Rogers at that point. Right now he can. Right now he's coming out of the ice.
My thing is I'm bullish on Aaron Rodgers this week. I have him as my quarterback 1. I have Devontae Adams as my wide receiver 1. But I am not picking them. Usually I'm picking against the Lions this year for my survivor. I picked the 49ers week 1. I'm not picking the Packers this week because there's a small chance that they lose. Like this could just be a disaster.
Yeah. that is our quarterbacks for lock and flop. We're going to kick it now to the wide receivers. The graphic took a minute to upload. Hopefully you're watching on YouTube if you have the chance to, because we do a lot of stuff with these graphics. But PrimeTime's lock or flop wide receivers. We have 3 pretty solid receivers here. So let's kick it off with DK Metcalf against the Tennessee Titans. He had 16 fantasy points last week, 4 receptions. I forget the number of yards, maybe 40. But if he didn't have that touchdown, that's a guy who drafted in the second round with 10 points. That's not a great fantasy performance this week going against the Tennessee Titans. Cody, is DK Metcalf a lock or a flop?
Oh, he's a absolute lock. You throw that key away. It's at home against the Titans, who just gave up 6 catches, 84 yards, and 2 touchdowns to Deandre Hopkins in a half. DK Metcalf is going to eat that secondary.
How about you, Nick? Lock or flop on DK?
Cody called Rodgers his QB1. I'm calling my DK my wide receiver.
No, you beat me to it. No, as the host, I should have taken that. No,
you should have done it first.
I take it back. Wide receiver 2. Okay.
No. You could have one. You could have one, because then if he's not the one, I'm not wrong. So you're gonna take
fair enough. Okay. But yeah, come on. He's gonna cook this Titans secondary. Russ is gonna absolutely cook against this team. I think Metcalf is in for a big day. I think he's in for multiple touchdowns, well north of 100 yards. And if we don't see that from him, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would be surprised, because I think that Pete Carroll should be planning this whole game around how do we get DK Metcalf that 50-yard bomb more than once this game. It should be too easy for him to destroy that secondary.
For those of you that are watching the YouTube portion of it, I am wearing a nice DK Metcalf t-shirt. It says Decaf Metcalf. It's like a Starbucks logo. It's by RotoWear. Shout out RotoWear. They make really cool fantasy shirts, and they're actually sponsored by the MLBPA, so their MLB shirts are excellent. I picked DK for this one because I think he's going to have a monster week. I think he's going to be a top 3 wide receiver on the week. Last week was the Tyler Lockett game. This week's going to be the DK Metcalf coming out party. The Titans secondary is terrible. Cody mentioned Hopkins stats. Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore both over 50 yards each, 4 receptions. So not just DK, but Tyler Lockett. You're locking the Seahawks wide receivers in this week. You're locking in Russell Wilson. It should be an offensive explosion. Because I'm saying that, it's going to end up being a 17-14 game where Derrick Henry and Chris Carson gets all the touchdowns. Hopefully not. I think it's going to be a big game for DK and for Tyler Lockett. Jarvis Landry, lock or flop going against those Houston Texans, who are hot with a win against those Jaguars. Nick, lock or flop on a Browns wide receiver?
I'm going to take him as a flop this week. There is no Odell. As much as the matchup is good, I do think that Cleveland takes early control of this game. I think they followed the momentum of the last game, but they're not facing Patrick Mahomes. They're facing Tyrod Taylor, and let's be honest, he's no Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to have that comeback. It should be a very run-heavy game where they cook him early and they're just running out the clock. So I'm going to say that he's going to flop this week.
How about you, Cody?
I've got him as a lock. No Odell Beckham Jr. I think he gets in the end zone. I don't think he runs one in this week. I think he's going to catch one.
I'm with you, Cody. I think Jarvis Landry is a lock. I think he's a nice flex play. He had 4 or 5 receptions last week, 70 yards,
5
no
catches
touchdown.
On 5 targets.
5 catches. Okay. So there you go. He caught all his targets, and that's 12 fantasy points right there. I think he's going to get that again, and I think he gets a touchdown. So I think Jarvis Landry is looking close to that 20-point number. I think he's going to be closer between 16 and 18, but I think Baker's going to get going. Baker doesn't have a touchdown pass on the season. I think he gets 2 this game. The Texans are terrible. Don't believe the fact that they absolutely ripped apart that terrible Jaguars team. The Texans aren't for real. They're right there with the Detroit Lions. The Browns are going to explode this
Apparently
week.
The Jaguars are right there with them.
Start all your Browns this week. Speaking of the Jaguars, Laviska Shenault, lock or flop, Nick?
I have Shenault as a flop this week. I love Shenault going into the year. I love the player, but I was very disappointed to see DJ Chark out-target him in week 1. And this is not the Texans secondary. This is the Broncos team. And the Broncos team you saw in week 1, they can handle whoever they want. They can compete against these bad teams. The Giants, probably one of the worst 3-4 teams in the league right now, based off that performance. And this is a team that just came off a loss to the Texans. With Shenault right now being the number 2 target to Chark, I can't see myself starting him against a team like the Broncos.
How about you, Cody? Lock or flop on Laviska Shenault?
As the resident Bronco fan, I almost want to say lock because I think the Broncos are going to get out early and they're going to have to throw it. But I have him as a flop. I actually think right now he's the number 3 receiving option in this offense. And I just don't think that offense can sustain 3 pass catchers in any fantasy output, which granted Marvin Jones probably go down at some point. He is getting older. He does have nagging injuries. That's when I think Shenault later on in the season will be really good, especially dynasty target. I really love Shenault. I've got him as a flop this week, though.
I agree with you guys. He's a flop. He got out-targeted. Chark's probably the number 1. I'm scared of that Broncos defense. They have a top 5 defense in the league. They have a good secondary. They're good up front. They're going to maul Trevor Lawrence. If you have the Broncos defense, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a pick 6 in there somewhere because I think they're going to have a really, really good I think they're going to have a good game. I like Shenault for the season. Like you guys said, I can only echo that much. But this week, I'm not sure did he get 7 targets and he had, 70 yards, something like that? I don't think he's catching that many, maybe 4 for 60, which isn't bad. It's 10 points. But I think with the receiver position – with the receiver position being as deep as it is, this isn't running backs. This is wide receivers. You got to have a receiver out there. Like Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore might get you a touchdown and 80 yards this week. That's just one example off the top of my head. Yeah. So there's too much upside when it comes to wide receivers. There are receivers you could have gotten off the waiver wire this week that will have a better game than Laviska Shenault. So I would bench him for this week. He's a flop. Going out to running backs, let's keep it in the same game. Melvin Gordon had 111 yards last week, but that stat line's just a little lopsided when 70 of them came on a long touchdown run. He actually split carries with Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams actually got more of the red zone, I think within the first 3 yards, or I forget the stat that I saw, but he got more of the goal line work. So Cody, as a Broncos fan, let's let you go first. Is Melvin Gordon a lock or a flop going against the who are they facing? I forget who they're facing.
The Jaguars.
Jaguars.
We got the wrong title.
Yeah, I'll call the error on that one. That's on me, boys.
No, whatever. I have him as a flop. I love what I saw from him. He broke the long 70-yard touchdown. He has the juice. He looks like he has some juice left in him. I just like what I saw from Javonte Williams a lot more. He was in any scenario, third down, picking up blitzes. He caught a ball. He's getting all of the red zone work, and that terrifies me. If you own Melvin Gordon anywhere, that's where I expected him to kind of flourish, is scoring touchdowns. If he's not scoring any touchdowns, he's a 5 or 6 point guy a week. I have him as a flop this week, even in a quality matchup where I think they run a lot. If he doesn't get in the end zone, I mean, he's going to need to get you 100 yards.
How about you, Nick? Lock or flop on Melvin Gordon?
I'm going to avoid Melvin Gordon this week as well. I think he does have the favorable matchup. I think they will be running the ball a lot, but like we said, I think he's going to have to find the end zone. And I think he doesn't present the upside that a wide receiver would in your flex spot, and you should have 2 better running backs than Melvin Gordon. So I'll call him a flop for the week.
If you went 0 running back and your running backs are probably, I don't know, Chris Carson and Melvin Gordon or something like that, then yeah, you have to start him. I kind of peg him there with Damian Harris or Mike Davis. I think he's in that range right now. So for me, his projection's 12, which is tough. I think he does. No. I think they're going to run a lot. I'm going to say a lock. He's a very, very low lock. If you need to play him, you play him. But if you have 3 running backs up there, I wouldn't play him. Josh Jacobs, he has a little bit of a turf toe issue. He got 2 touchdowns Monday night, but only 30 yards. He got nothing in the pass game. Now going against the Steel Curtain at Pittsburgh. Nick, is Josh Jacobs a lock or a flop?
Hell no. Me and Cody called him our flop. our flop for the season, our bust. I think the 2 touchdown game the other night.
Fluke.
I think that, yeah, absolute fluke. I would not be trusting Josh Jacobs against the Steelers team, which is known to shut down running backs early on in the season. I would absolutely avoid this matchup at all costs.
How about you, Cody? Lock or flop on Josh Jacobs?
You already know he's a flop. He offers nothing in the passing game. If he doesn't score 2 touchdowns against the Ravens' run defense, which is down from what it's recently been, he scores 3 points. 3.
Yeah, I'm worried about him too. I'm going to take this, and he's a flop for me. He needs at least a touchdown to just start in your lineup. I'm not going to call out his name because I thought it was a little ridiculous that he even offered me this. I got offered. He says to me, "What's it going to take for Jonathan Taylor?" And he goes, "Josh Jacobs and DJ Moore." And I said to him, "Brother, what are you doing? You know me. You know me. It's going to take a lot more than that to pry Jonathan Taylor out of my hands." So Josh Jacobs to me is a flop. He's not going to get the touches. He's not going to get the receptions. It's going to be very, very tough for him to get a touchdown with that front 7. And there's a chance Grudem does like to run the ball. So if he gets that touchdown, if he gets 40 yards, he's getting you 11, which isn't terrible. But again, if you have another running back, if you picked up Elijah Moore off of waivers, or maybe even, Mike Davis, I wouldn't play either because he's against that Bucs defense, but it kind of depends on who you have.
At least.
Honestly, I think I'd rather play Kenyon Drake. In this game.
I have Josh Jacobs in one dynasty league. It breaks my heart because I've literally tried trading him to anyone. And I offered the guy who had Javonte Williams. I said, "I'll give you Josh Jacobs for Javonte Williams," just hoping, praying maybe he doesn't pay much attention to how awful Josh Jacobs is in the passing game. Nope, no chance.
Alrighty, and our third running back we have is Jamal Williams. He had 25 fantasy points, probably drafted him in the 11th round, and he was a stud on week 1. I'm going to take this one because I'm a Jamal Williams owner in 3 leagues, and I'm jealous that I'm not an owner in all 4 of mine. Jamal Williams is a lock for me. The Lions are going to be down. He got 8 targets last week. I believe he caught all of them. I think he had 40 receiving yards. He had a touchdown in there. He had 50 rushing yards. He's going to get work, and so is Swift, whether they're down or up. I'm all in on Jamal Williams. I think he's getting you 13 fantasy points. I think there's touchdown potential, there's PPR potential. I like all of Jamal Williams in this game. What about you, Cody? Is he a lock or a flop?
I agree. I tried telling everybody before the season started that Anthony Lynn loved Jamal Williams. He was going to get run. And it's obvious they lack playmakers in such a deep, disturbing way. It's Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, and TJ Hawkinson. That is going to be the absolute core of their offense. And when they get down 20, 24, 28 points, they're just going to throw it to those 3 guys. They have no receivers. I mean, we all thought Amon-Ra St. Brown might be a nice sleeper. I don't even know if he caught a ball on Sunday. I don't know how many snaps he played. I haven't looked at snap shares yet. But Jamal Williams is a great pass catching running back. DeAndre Swift, a great pass catching running back. TJ Hawkinson, is the sky's the limit for that kid. I told everybody in Dynasty he was my tight end 1, and people were laughing at me. They're not laughing now after that week 1 performance. He looked great.
A second tight end on the week. How about you, Nick? Lock or flop on Jamal Williams?
I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to call Jamal Williams a flop this week. I think that a little bit of that San Francisco game was a little bit of a fluke with how productive they were. They got down a lot early, and it took a lot to get back into that game. You know, they saw most of the comeback within the last 3 minutes of the game. Jamal Williams still saw some production, but I don't see the game script still going like that. They're going to be down early. They're going to be looking to pass the ball. So Jamal might see a couple catches there, but outside of Cleveland, I don't trust starting 2 running backs from the same team. So I'm not at that point yet, but if he quickly becomes a dual threat with Swift and both see production for the next couple weeks, I'll consider playing him on a more weekly basis.
I'd start Jamal over either of these 2 guys, 100%.
So would I. Yeah, so would I.
And
all right,
you're talking about a guy in Josh Jacobs that you might have picked in like the 4th or 5th round, and Jamal Williams was 5 rounds later.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that one.
Is what it is.
All right, we're going to go to tight ends now. Tight ends are very tough to predict. We've spoken about this, but we have 3 guys that might be able to help you in your lineup. So, Nick, let's start with Tyler Higbee, and I'm going to start with you because Higbee's one of your guys. Is Higbee a lock or a flop going up against the Colts this week?
Absolute lock. Tyler Higbee has been a beast. I took a look at his target share numbers. He was on the field for 100% of snaps. He was played in the slot 20 I think it was 26 or 29% of snaps. He only blocked on a passing play once. Tyler Higbee is a pass catching tight end. He was a tight end that saw the field as the tight end one, saw 100% of snaps. He's going to continue to do that for the season. Tyler Higbee should be locked in, I think, at this point for every week going forward.
Yeah, he's also a lock for me. Russell Wilson was zoned in on his tight ends against the Colts. I believe two of them combined for one touchdown and I think 50, 60 yards. And Seattle doesn't have a premier tight end. They just kind of toss it out to anybody. But this is a premier tight end. I think Tyler Higbee's getting you 4 receptions, 40, 50 yards, and a touchdown. That's a pretty solid day. So I would lock in Tyler Higbee this week against those Colts. How about you, Cody? Lock or flop on Tyler Higbee?
I love Tyler Higbee. What I saw on Sunday Night Football, I love that. He's a top 3 tight end this weekend and probably a top 6 tight end for the rest of the season. 100% of snaps. He played every snap. Matthew Stafford loves throwing to the tight end. Absolute lock. If you can get him, this is as cheap as he's going to be this season. Go out and trade for him.
He should be rostered. If he's not rostered or he's available, definitely go trade for him. Yeah, I have him in. I have him with Greg Kittle in my dynasty league. So I
would try and trade for him because this is the cheapest he's going to be.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, what's up?
Before we transition to other players, I have a question. Would you guys rather start Tyler Higbee or Kyle Pitts?
Oh, don't do this to me! Don't do this to me.
This week, Higbee. I don't like Atlanta right now. Go away, Atlanta. I'm all off Atlanta right now, and they're facing.
Who are you taking rest of season?
God, I knew you were gonna say it.
Okay, after I gotta think Atlanta gets going at some point.
Give me Higbee. No.
Give me Pitts because I think Atlanta gets going at some point this season. But if Atlanta puts up 3 stinkers in a row, I'm all off everybody on their team, and I was real high on Ridley. But I'm all in on the Rams. I'm all in on the Bucks, and I'm all in on the Cowboys. If you could get somebody from those offenses, you're gonna have a really solid option every single week. Robert Tanyan on the Packers. Cody, this is one of your flops for the season. So is he a lock or a flop this week on Monday Night Football?
People know I don't like old Bobby Funyuns. He's a lock this week. Like I said, if I'm all over Aaron Rodgers, obviously, old Bobby Funyuns is going to get a touchdown this week.
I'm with Cody. Tanyan's getting a touchdown. He's probably getting 3 or 4 receptions, probably getting 30, 40 yards. He'll get you at least 10 points in your tight end slot, which is solid if you don't have one of the top 3 tight ends. What about you, Nick? Lock or flop on Robert Tanyan?
Lock Tanyan in for the week. It's a good matchup.
How about Cole Kmet on the Bears? The Bengals going up against the Bears. The Bengals defense is terrible. It's so bad. But this matchup, this game is awesome because it's going to be a fantasy showdown. It's going to be amazing for fantasy players unless you're playing one of their defenses, which you should not if you want to win your week. Nick, Cole Kmet, is he a lock or a flop?
I'm avoiding Cole Kmet. I see too many people going after him. I think that the 2 outside receivers see most of the workload this game. I think this is a week where you could see Darnell Mooney. That these 2 were all over him all offseason. I think this is a game you could see him boom, especially if Justin Fields winds up seeing the field. We don't have an answer on it yet. There's still a lot of pushback. But whether Andy Dalton or Fields is in there, I think that Cole Kmet is still the 3rd receiving option on this team. I think Mooney has his boom week. I think Allen Robinson sees his usual 10 to 12 to 13, 14 targets. So I don't see Cole Kmet finding a way to be productive going down the field unless he finds the end zone. And he could do it, but I don't think he's going to have enough of that workload with Mooney being able to break through that Bengals secondary and Allen Robinson already seeing double-digit targets.
Yeah, I'm off Cole Kmet too. I just think there's other options. I think Jared Cook is a good option with the Chargers. I think that Dalton Schultz is a good option with the Cowboys. If you really need to pick up a tight end, I think those are 2 better options than Cole Kmet. What about you, Cody? Lock or flop on Cole Kmet?
Good old how I Kmet your mother. He's a flop. For me, he's not a top 12 tight end for me this weekend. Andy Dalton revenge game. I think he gets benched during his revenge game. That's how bad their defense was. They did face the Rams. I feel kind of bad. No, I don't. It's Andy Dalton. I don't feel bad. No, you're not. You're not starting Cole Kmet. He's a flop this week. Love him. Love his upside. Long term, love it. Not this
Those
week.
are our locks and flops of the week. But if we didn't talk about your player, there's another opportunity because we have a rapid fire segment. We're going to go one player from each side of the ball in each of the 15 games because we're not talking about the Thursday night game. And hopefully we do talk about one of your players and kind of help you navigate that flex spot. And if not, send us a question on Twitter or join the live stream on Sunday. Even better, we'll answer any questions you have when it comes to flex appeal and anything else you need for your lineup. So let's get right into this rapid fire segment. Darnell Mooney or T. Higgins, since we're on this game anyway. Cody, which one are you going with?
Darnell Mooney, ship him to the moon. He's catching a bomb. And it's going to be from Justin Fields.
What about you, Nick? Mooney or T. Higgins?
Give me Mooney. He's getting that money ball.
Mooney's been my guy. He's on 4 teams of mine. I'm taking all 3 Bengals wide receivers over him this week. I love Mooney. Ooh. I think he's gonna have a productive game, but I think all 3 Bengals have a chance at 20 points. I think Mooney has a chance at 15. Give me the upside of the Bengals wide receivers. Give me Justin Fields, and I'll be more confident. But with Dalton, no. He'll score 12, I think. Brandon Cooks or Jarvis Landry in the Browns versus Texans game. Cody, which one would you rather have?
Brandon Cooks. Give me the guy that they're going to have to throw a lot. And he is he's pretty much their only target, Brandon Cooks.
How about you, Nick?
Give me Brandon Cooks in that game script. It's written for Cooks to have a game.
I agree with Cooks, but I would also start Landry, so we got 2 good starts there.
Absolutely.
The Rams versus the Colts. This is a little tougher to do, but we got 2 names here. Van Jefferson, popular waiver wire pickup against Zach Pascal, another popular waiver wire pickup. Cody, who are you going with?
Van Jefferson. I just like the offense a lot more for him. I don't see Pascal getting 2 touchdowns again. Such small target share. I'll take Van Jefferson.
I'm taking Zach Pascal. I don't love the matchup at all. I hope that Ramsey's not on him because if he is, he's not catching a ball. But I think that somebody has to get the ball with Wentz. I think he could get 4 targets and 60 yards. Van Jefferson, I think, is bomb or bust, and I'll take the safer floor with Zach Pascal in this one. How about you, Nick?
I'm actually going to say the exact opposite of Nick. I'm going to take the higher upside on Van Jefferson. All four of those weapons, including the running backs, managed to see some sort of safe production in week 1 against the Bears. I think they can replicate it again against the Colts.
Dolphins versus Bills, Jalen Ramsey or Cole Beasley. Nick, we're going to start with you.
Wait, so I think you mean Jalen Waddle, not Jalen Ramsey. That threw me off
Ramsey's in my head. Jalen Ramsey, we're not talking about defensive players, although I would take Jalen Ramsey over many defensive players. Jalen Waddle or Cole Beasley.
I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. I like what I saw in week 1. He is going to have a little bit more of a rivalry now with Will Fuller returning, but I think Waddle winds up being the wide receiver in this offense that really becomes the boom guy. He's the younger guy. I think they look to develop that connection with Tua. He didn't really look much to Gesicki last game, and I think that Waddle will be running a lot more out of different positions on that field. I think Waddle will become his number 1 weapon. I could see week 2 being another place where he makes his mark in this league.
How about you, Cody?
You know what? Give me Beasley. Poor old anti-vaxxer. Got 13 targets week 1. That's something I was not expecting. That's a ton of usage. I am worried about Fuller coming back for Waddle. Give me Beasley.
I'm taking Beasley as well. I'm all in on the Bills this week. They have to put up a big game. These are Super Bowl contenders, according to many people. The offense has to explode. So give me Cole Beasley. Jets versus Patriots, Jacoby Myers or Jamison Crowder. If Crowder is still on the COVID list, we're going to swap in Elijah Moore. So you could kind of make a point about both. But Cody, Jacoby Myers or one of the Jets wide receivers?
None. Just kidding. Give me Jacoby Myers. He played every snap but one. So I'll take the guy that's going to be out there the whole game.
How about you, Nick?
I'm actually the opposite of Cody. I think both of them are actually playable this week. Jacoby saw a lot bigger of a target share than I thought he would, even with his little production. And the Jets secondary is not Miami. It's going to be a lot easier for Mac Jones to mess it up. I can be self-aware of my team. And the Jets wide receivers struggle to catch the ball. Jamison Crowder is someone that will catch the ball, and he'll be playing more of that slot role anyway. If it's Elijah Moore, I'm not playing him. Elijah Moore struggled very much against Carolina, and I don't think, Bill Belichick is the guy where he'll find that success if he couldn't do it against Carolina.
Bill Belichick ain't losing to a rookie quarterback, and Mac Jones is going to show out in this game. Give me Jacoby Myers. 49ers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Miles Sanders or hot waiver pickup Elijah Mitchell. Cody.
I'm going to go Miles Sanders. I loved all the touches he got in week 1. Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell got the touchdown. Miles Sanders over 20 touches. I love that.
I'm going to take Elijah Mitchell. He had 100 yards, and the 49ers backfield is a little tricky to it's tricky to navigate, but I'm going to take Mitchell because I think he is the number one running back right now. I'm not sure how confident Shanahan is on Sermon. I think he's getting you 100 yards and another touchdown. I don't know if Miles Sanders gets that touchdown, so give me Mitchell. How about you, Nick?
Give me Miles Sanders. I like Elijah Mitchell as a player, but this is a team that just let the Lions score 50 points to both their running backs. Miles Sanders is going to have guaranteed points in this game.
Steelers versus Raiders. If you do have a little quarterback issue, Big Ben or Derek Carr, Nick?
I would hope neither, but I'm not trusted. I don't really. I mean, me and Cody weren't high on Josh Allen to begin with, but Josh Allen wasn't productive with Stephon Diggs. A couple of the wide receivers saw some production, and it'll be a nice Darren Waller game because he is the only option. But Derek Carr is not the starter there. Big Ben's going to throw the ball a ton. I think it's a big game for the Steelers wide receivers against that secondary. So give me Big Ben.
I like Derek Carr on the season. I don't like him against this defense. I think he'll put up a nice stat line, not a top 10 fantasy stat line, but I'm taking Carr over Big Ben. What about you, Cody?
I'm taking Big Ben, but I'm not happy about it.
Saints versus the Panthers, Robbie Anderson or Marquez Callaway, Cody?
Marquez Callaway, jump back on that wagon. Spank that horse. He's going to get a tutty this week.
If Callaway has less than 5 points, he's going to be on our drop segment. He's droppable next week. He'll be on our drop segments. But I'm going with Callaway. I think I like the matchup. I think Jameis has to throw the ball in this one. I'm going with Callaway. How about you, Nick?
I'm taking Robbie. I think they got to throw the ball a lot more than they do. No Lattimore. Robbie will be a burner. He only saw the one catch for 57, but that was enough for him to be one of the higher end wide receivers on the week. I think he has the capability to do that every week, week in, week out, with DJ Moore being guarded by the corner one on the other side.
All right, Jaguars versus the Broncos, Cortland Sutton or DJ Chark. I'll take this one. I wanted Cortland Sutton in our lock or flop segment, but I pulled him. But I'm going Cortland Sutton. He's going to be the Broncos' number one wide receiver. The Jaguars' defense it's terrible. I know I use that word a lot, but it's terrible. There's no other word to describe it. So give me Cortland Sutton. DJ Chark will get a nice stat line maybe against those Broncos, but give me Sutton. Cody, you're going Sutton, I'm guessing.
I'm not. I'm going DJ Chark.
Wow.
I'm going Chark just because garbage. The garbage man is coming out to play this week. He'll pass Sutton by with some late catches. I do think Sutton gets in the end zone. I am a little worried though. He didn't look like he was fully back last week.
Interesting. Well, maybe he needed another week. How about you, Nick? Sutton or DJ Chark?
I'm with Cody, Nick. I'm sorry, but I'm going Chark. I mean, that double-digit targets is going to be a bad game script. Sutton is still in that crowded offense, even without Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, no fan-off production. Melvin Gordon, Devontae is going to get in there. That they have the weapons. They're going to spread the ball. They should not be passing a lot because they should be up early. So give me Chark in those double-digit targets.
All right, Vikings versus the Arizona Cardinals. Justin Jefferson or DeAndre Hopkins?
Woo,
Cody?
Woo, buddy. Man, give me D-Hop. Machine. I don't know how you pick between the two. I mean, I love Justin Jefferson, but it's D-Hop.
Jefferson should have been 18 last week. He got robbed of that touchdown at the goal line, but he ended up at 12. Yeah. Not a terrible game, but I think he's going to have a breakout game. I think he has to. The Vikings going to have to throw a lot. I'm going to go Jefferson by like a point, but Hopkins is just so consistent. But I'll go Jefferson by a point.
Those are two
How about
top
you,
5
Nick?
wide receivers this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, both should already be locked in your lineup, but I think D Hop has a better chance. I think Julio and AJ Brown struggled a little bit. I don't think Jefferson will, because I think the play style that he has is more competitive with that Arizona defense. But I mean, I think both obviously should be playable, but I think D Hop has the bigger week.
All right, we got the Bucs versus the Falcons in a game that will definitely not be lopsided at all. Rob Gronkowski or Kyle Pitts, Cody?
Kyle Pitts, baby. I'm not off the wagon yet. Too gifted.
How about you, Nick?
I'm going Kyle Pitts as well.
I can't go Gronk because he had a ridiculous stat line last week. That Bucs offense is too loaded. He's touchdown dependent. Give me Kyle Pitts in this one. If the Falcons score 6 points again, then you got problems.
Time to panic.
Cowboys versus the Chargers, 2 running backs that really disappointed last week, but 2 first-round picks, Ezekiel Elliott or Austin Eckler. Nick, which one are you going with as owner of both these guys, I believe?
Yeah, I'm an owner of both these guys. Eckler in multiple leagues, Zeke only in one. It was really tough to decide, but I think both these teams go back. They look at the game tape, and you saw that the quarterback did not check down to the running back as much as they should have. So I think both do see a little bit more production in the passing game, and they have better weeks this week. But I think Eckler has more of that locked-in chance. We saw DeMarcus Lawrence now will be out for a little while. No one's going to be coming off the edge. It's not going to be as much of a rush, but Eckler's still going to find that production. And he managed to score 11 points last week without getting a catch, which I thought was still, it sucked to see that he wasn't getting the passing game, but I think this is the week where he returns to it.
How about you, Cody?
I'm going Eckler. The fantasy carnival is back with the poor old Dallas Cowboys. It's just rinse and repeat. Whoever's playing the Cowboys, you play them and you play your Cowboys because it's a shootout every week.
I'm going Zeke. I think the Cowboys have to run the ball. Dak is phenomenal, but can't throw 50 times or 40 times a game. You can't. He's not going to sustain it. He's getting hurt again. You can't do that. They got to establish the run. I'm not all about the Chargers defense. I don't think they're phenomenal. I think they're average, but I think they try to establish the run a little bit in this game. So give me Zeke. Tyler Lockett or Julio Jones. Interesting matchup in Seattle. Cody, which one are you taking?
I think Julio's dusted. I'm afraid Julio's just toast. I think he's fried, so I'm taking Lockett. I think he catches another bomb.
Tyler Lockett only has usually 3-4 games a year where he explodes. The rest of those, I'm a Seahawks fan. I love him. He makes the big catches the other 12 games. This one's not a Tyler Lockett game to me. I know I said to play him earlier in the show, and I think you have to play him. I think you have to play both. However, I think Julio needs to show out. If Julio puts up another stinker, then people are going to be worried about him. I think this Titans offense gets rolling. I think Seattle's offense rolls. I think we could have a little bit of a shootout here. Give me Julio Jones. Nick.
I'm a lot higher on Lockett than Nick is on the season. I think the new OC finds a way to balance him out. Him and DK, where they both have a balanced season, more of those, hit or miss, boom bust weeks. So I'm going to go with Lockett. I think that his consistency is going to be a lot higher for the year. And in multiple leagues, I drafted Lockett over Julio. I'm riding with him for the entire season, especially in this matchup.
Sunday night, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Tyson Williams, the starting running back for the Ravens. Cody.
Tyson Williams. I am terrified of CEH's of his workload. I just don't think he's going to be efficient enough with the limited touches that he gets. I'm terrified of him. Tyson Williams looked good. He looked really good, and they pulled him for some reason.
They pulled him because he wasn't great in pass blocking, and that's kind of what worries me. Latavius Murray's a better pass blocker, and I think Latavius Murray gets more goal line touches. I think Tyson Williams could get more passes, but I'm just worried about the committee situation over there, so I'm going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this game. How about you, Nick?
I'm taking Clyde as well. They brought in too many running backs. They're going to find 2 more that work and use them like a committee, like they were going to when it was JK, Justice, and who was the third one? I forget.
Gus the Bus.
There you go.
Gus Edwards, yeah.
How could I forget? How could I forget the Gus?
But shout out Tyson Williams for winning me my dynasty game. Sorry, Jake. And the last game on Monday Night Football, Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift. I know I said start your Packers. I know I did. And you should start both these guys. I'm going Swift by a point. I have a gut feeling those Lions are going to be throwing a lot, and both of those running backs are going to have big games again. So give me DeAndre Swift in this one. I think A.J. Dillon could get some work if the Packers go up early. So give me DeAndre Swift. And Devontae Adams is also going to catch 2 touchdowns from the 1-yard line too. So Swift. Cody.
Aaron Jones. That's it.
So that's it. Nick.
Oh, no. Aaron Jones.
All right.
All that needs to be said.
All right. That is our rapid fire start sit. Hopefully we helped you guys out with this one. If you still have lineup issues, you can either tweet us or join the live show Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We're now going to go to our week 2 triple threat. Again, this is how the triple threat challenge works. It's almost like a survivor pool. Me, Cody, Nick are going to select a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver every single week. All 3 must hit their projection according to ESPN. If all 3 don't, you lose. If all 3 do, you win. If we all lost last week, if we all lose this week again, we may have to figure. We'll have to figure out a point system. So let's get into our triple threat. Let's start with Nick. Nick's triple threat is going to be Kyler Murray, Nick Chubb, and Danny Amendola. Nick, why did you select these players?
Look, Kyler Murray's projection's 21.4. That is way too low. I think by the time week 4, week 5 rolls around, that number's getting up to 24, 25 every single week. Give it to me while it's still low, while I can lock it in. Nick Chubb against the Texans, game script is perfect for him to exceed that 17.9 number. And Danny Amendola, 3.4. He had 7 targets last week in a game script that wasn't in his favor with 33 passes from Tyrod Taylor. He's going to get more than that. 2 catches for 15 yards breaks that 3.4. That's an easy lock-in for me.
That's a great one right there. Cody, how about you? Your triple threat is going to be Joe Burrow, who I spoke about earlier in the show, David Montgomery, and Keenan Allen. You lost last week thanks to Raheem Mostert, just like I did. So why did you select these players for your triple threat?
Well, I made it blatantly obvious that the Cowboys are the fantasy carnival, so that's exactly why I took Keenan Allen. He's a PPR just queen. He is the queen of PPR. I don't really like Keenan Allen. I remember him trashing the Broncos when we had our carousel quarterback. So he's not a king of PPR. He's the queen. 16.7 in PPR. That's way too low. He catches 10 balls a week. He's 67 yards for 10 balls. He's going over that. Just no injuries. That's all I'm hoping for. And then obviously I'm targeting the Bengals at the Bears. Joe Burrow, 17 points. He's absolutely efficient as anyone at the quarterback position. He might only throw it 30 times. He's going to complete 25 of them. 17 points is too low. David Montgomery looked really good Sunday Night Football. I was not expecting him to do that well against a vaunted run defense and the Rams. The Bengals don't have that. I'm super confident with this triple threat as long as nobody gets hurt.
For me, I'm going with Dak Prescott, Melvin Gordon, and Antonio Brown. I'm a little iffy on Melvin, but Dak Prescott, his projection is 20.3. Dak Prescott's going to get you 30 plus. 20.3, that's a ridiculous projection. That's all. Antonio Brown, 11.9. He might be the most productive Bucs receiver this season. I don't know if he's going to score the most points, but from a target perspective, he's going to get a ridiculous amount of targets every single week. 11.9, he's going to break this without a touchdown, and I think he has a chance at a touchdown as well. Melvin Gordon's projection is only at 12.2. I think he could break that. I think he's going to get a lot of rushing work against the Jaguars, so that's why I selected Melvin Gordon. I'm trying to get him out of the way. I'm worried about him, but running backs are scarce. I haven't really used any of the big ones yet, just Mostert and Gordon. I'm trying to save those big running backs for later in the season, so I'm taking Melvin Gordon in this one. So that's our triple threat. We'll keep doing it throughout the season. And if you guys want to play along, let us know. You can make a triple threat and send it to us, and we'll even shout you out on the show. We'll make a graphic for you too. So if you want to play the triple threat, let us know. Last segment of the show before we get out of here is a fantasy mailbag. We got 8 great questions, and I'm not just saying that because they're questions. Like, really, I looked at the questions earlier. There's a lot of really tough start sits and flex plays, so we're going to get into it, and we're hopefully going to help out 8 of you guys with your lineup. So thank you again for everybody who did submit a question, and if you didn't get a question in on time, send it to us on Twitter. We'll all answer it. We'll all respond to it, or even better, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, like I've said, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, our live show. So let's get right into it. The first question we're going to talk about is from my friend Nick Eagle. He is the known villain of his fantasy leagues. He wants to be Thanos. We'll see if he collects another stone this season. Should I start Cortland Sutton or Darnell Mooney? What do you think, Cody?
That's a good one.
I think I know where you're going.
Oh, that's a really good one. I'm going Mooney. Strap him to the moon.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm going Mooney. I like the matchup more. I like the game script more. I think it leans in his favor. I think Mooney also has the higher ceiling on this week.
I texted him back Sutton. I'm worried about the Bears with Andy Dalton. I don't know if he's going to push it down the field. I just saw what he did with the Cowboys offense last year, and it wasn't great. It wasn't fantasy friendly. So I'm going to take Sutton in this one, but I think they're both very good plays. So I'm taking Sutton in this one.
The deal with this matchup, why I'm taking Mooney over Sutton, I could see Sutton getting in the end zone. I could see him catching 4 or 5 balls, getting in the end zone. Sure. The Bengals don't have the pass rush that the Rams do. I think Andy Dalton or Justin Fields is going to have a lot more time for plays to develop. I think Mooney gets behind the secondary.
This is true. From Andreas Capsalis, Sammy Watkins or Aguilar off of waivers. He has them both already. I'll start with this one. You should have picked up Aguilar a few days ago. He's definitely not available on the waivers now. And if he is, your league mates are not very good. But Watkins was on my waiver list this week. I was looking at him as a deep waiver. I actually put in a claim for him in case I didn't get one of my first few guys. So he's one to watch over the next 2 to 3 weeks, but I would go with Aguilar. Cody?
I agree. I talked about Aguilar being my number one waiver claim if Elijah Mitchell was already gone. Great matchup this week. He's a start. If you're that deep on your wide receivers and you need a start, he's a start this week.
How about you, Nick?
I'm going to go with both of you guys on Aguilar. I think Sammy Watkins is actually a much better pickup than people are going to give him credit for. I think he fit in pretty well with Lamar from what I saw. I think he has a lot of upside as the season goes on, especially with those weapons being very slim now with that running back position. But I think Aguilar against the Jets, he should have a big game. So I'm going to roll with that.
From Nick B, should I be worried about Aaron Jones in my starting lineup with Green Bay's last performance? Nope. He'll be fine. They're going to get on track against the Lions, and I think the Packers will be good. If they don't get on track against the Lions, your worry meter goes up. Then you could worry. Any other takes from you guys, but I think we're going to agree on this one.
I'm not worried about Aaron Jones at all.
Yeah, if he doesn't hit this week, then you can hit the panic button.
Nick B has another question. Who has a better tight end matchup, Pitts, Kennett, or Juwan Johnson? I'm going to go with Juwan Johnson here. He got in the end zone twice last week, I believe. He's facing those Carolina Panthers. They're not very good. I'm worried about Pitts against that Tampa Bay defense. I'm not as high on Kmet, so I'm going with Juwan Johnson there. Cody?
I'm going Pitts. I'm going to take the talent. By far, he's a freak. My only worry with Johnson is he only played on 14 snaps. He's only going to be in there around the goal line. He could catch you 2 touchdowns, but that's playing with fire. I'm going to play the guy that lines up everywhere.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm going with Kyle Pitts. I'm calling it right now. The Falcons 28-3 comeback against Brady. I'm just kidding. Not going to happen. Falcons should be playing from behind. And I mean, we all said, we're hitting the panic button if they don't find a way to move the ball like they did in week 1. But I think I'm still going to roll with Pitts.
From Chef Kells, start Mike Williams or Chris Godwin. They both had good matchups last week. They had productive weeks. I'm going to go with Godwin here. He was very productive last week. He got a lot of targets. I think him and AB are just, you're locking them in every week. And Evans too. You're locking them in. They're going to get a lot of targets, a lot of receptions. I feel like Godwin, you just have to play every single week. There's not many matchups that I would say sit Chris Godwin in. So give me the guy that I trust. Cody, are you going with the carousel?
I love Mike Evans. I love Mike Evans. I really do. And he is playing the old fantasy carousel, the old Cardinals.
Mike Williams, yeah.
Yeah. The old Cardinals coming to town. My problem is Trevon Diggs looked pretty good covering Mike Evans on Thursday night. He shut him out almost. He caught one ball. Now, Mike Evans said he wasn't at 100%, but give me Godwin. Godwin against the Atlanta Falcons secondary. Tom Brady's going to have 4 touchdowns. It's going to be a slaughter.
Yeah. What about you, Nick?
I'm rolling with Godwin, too. I think you take him at that pick. I don't think you risk putting Mike Williams in there, who, he does have all the upside in the world, but Godwin has that guaranteed workload. I think he saw 14 targets on Thursday Night Football. He's going to still see that production throughout the season. And against that Atlanta Falcons defense that the Eagles just cooked, come on, you got to go with Godwin.
If Godwin's in your flex, I want to know who your starting wide receivers are, because that's a pretty great receiving core. And I want to know who your running backs are too, because you might have gone 0 running back at that point. We have another question regarding Mike Williams from Joseph G. Deebo Samuel or Mike Williams for my flex? I'm reluctant to start Deebo because Williams has a much better matchup, even though Deebo had an outstanding week 1. I'm going with Deebo here. He had a great week 1. When you have a guy score 39 and he was productive last year too, you don't bench him. You do not bench him the next week unless you're facing Jalen Ramsey, and he's not. I don't see an Eagles corner out there that can shut down Deebo. Somebody has to catch those balls. He's not going to score 39, but 15, 20. I'm taking the guy that just scored. You don't go away from that. You just don't. What do you think, Cody?
I agree. Like I said, I love Mike Williams. The Fantasy Carnival's coming to town. But Deebo, if Brandon Ayuk really is in the doghouse, Deebo is going to blow up.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm with these guys. Deebo came off that massive weeks going up against Philly. I think he has another big one.
Yeah. From Brandon, how do I say his name, Nick? Meline.
Brandon
Moline. With Saquon Barkley being so limited in the Giants offense week 1, is he still a starting running back for fantasy, or does he need to prove he has a bigger role in the offense first? I wish we could answer this question after the game. So for those who have been listening for the last hour, Thursday Night Football was last night. We're recording on a Wednesday. So we don't know what happened last night on Thursday Night Football, but I wish I knew that. Cody, you're a Saquon Barkley owner. Are you starting him this week?
I am not. Especially with the short turnaround, I could see him being inactive. I could see him getting about the same workload, which was 11 touches. I think what we're going to get is after this short turnaround, they're going to get 10 days to rest up for week 3. I think week 3, the shackles come off. Saquon Barkley is back. I think you leave him on your bench one more week.
How about you, Nick?
That's so tough. I feel like most teams, if you took Saquon, you probably should have doubled up on running back anyway, which means you're probably slim at the position. So I feel like you're kind of forced into a hole to start him. If you have the depth, like Cody, I know in our league, I think he has Montgomery and Sanders who we could plug in for him. So, if you have that depth, but I want to kind of turn this question on you guys. What would you say the line is for Barkley? Like, who would you really consider playing him over? Who would you bench him for? Does it go down to Melvin Gordon? Like, does it go that far?
I think he does. I think Melvin has a lot better.
If you got Elijah Mitchell, you're putting him in.
Yeah,
Miles Sanders.
Melvin over him.
Yeah.
If he's getting 10 touches against that defense, I don't think he gets 4 points.
I just looked at the Giants' schedule. They have the Falcons in 10 days. They're resting Saquon tomorrow night. He's not gonna. Yeah, next week is the Saquon Barkley party. I pray for anybody that is facing Saquon.
I need to look and see who I play.
And again, the Thursday Night Football game has not happened yet for us, so we don't know what happened. But based on what we know on Wednesday, I think we're all out on Saquon for the time being. 2 more questions to go. 2 of our good friends that we're actually playing against in our leagues. Jake Latona first. Sorry, Jake, you had a real rough week 1. I want to give Jake credit. Jake on his last 2 teams was a top 4 scorer in both of the leagues, and he lost week 1. And this is not to rub it in, like he has good teams, and I had that issue. I had that issue last year. Last year I was the number 1 scorer in the league, and I think I was 1-3 to start off the season due to bad matchup. So Jake, keep your head up.
Just real quick, didn't Jake also have CMC out for most of last year and finish in that
Yeah,
standing?
he did. Yeah,
Wow.
Jake finished. Jake went to the final last year with CMC out. So keep your head up, Jake, and we're gonna help you out with this question. Should I start Jalen, Waddle, Melvin Gordon, or Damian Harris in my flex? I always prefer the receiver unless you have a ridiculously good running back. I'm gonna go with Jalen Waddle. I think he has more production and more upside than Gordon and Harris. Cody, I'm gonna go with you first.
Waddle. It's close. That's really close. That's a great question. Give me
Who's
Waddle.
your number two? Who's your number two that makes it close?
Harris.
Okay. What about you, Nick?
I have the same order as Cody. I think I'd just roll with the upside on Waddle at that point.
Yeah, so would I. Final question of the week. My pal Jared, who I had to slaughter last week. I'm sorry, pal. I had to do it to you. Start one. Tyler Boyd, Cortland Sutton, or Elijah Mitchell?
Woo, man, that's a tough one.
What was the first
name? What was the first one?
Tyler Boyd, Cortland Sutton, or Elijah Mitchell? Who wants to take this one first?
It's got to be Elijah Mitchell. If he's going to get the same workload that he got in week one, I think it's Elijah Mitchell. Tyler Boyd didn't get that many targets in week one.
You start off your sentence with if Elijah Mitchell, and that's my issue with the 49ers is everything with them is an if. I can't trust Kyle Shanahan right now. Brandon Ayuk was a stud last year, and look at this. We cannot trust Kyle Shanahan. A healthy scratch on Sermon. You could play the 49ers players. The 49ers are going to win a lot of football games this year. But from a fantasy perspective, you cannot trust Kyle Shanahan in certain situations. I love Elijah Mitchell. I think he's the safest play out of these three. I think he's the safest one. If you want upside, though, I think I'm going Tyler Boyd. I said that those Bengals receivers, all three of them can get close to 20 points. I didn't say that all three would. I said I think all three have the ability to. I think one's going to get close to 20, one close to 15, one close to 10 or 12. Where Boyd falls, well, he didn't get a lot of targets last week, so maybe they try to get him more involved this week. I think I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd, and then I'll go Mitchell, and then I'll go Sutton. What about you, Nick?
I'm going to wait till Sunday morning. I'm going to wait for that injury report. Let's see what they do to Trey Sermon if they try and bench him again before the game. And then you roll with Mitchell. If not, I'm going to roll with the upside on Boyd.
So you're saying if Sermon is active,
if Sermon is active, I'm rolling with Boyd. If Sermon is out, I'm rolling with Mitchell.
Okay, that's pretty helpful. And Jared, if you want to jump in the chat and ask us a question on Sunday morning, if Sermon is active, and we could always answer that. That's our show for today. Thank you guys for sending in the questions. We appreciate it. We're going to put up a question post every single Wednesday. We do record on Wednesday nights. You have about 12 hours to get one in, but we'll try to answer that. And again, if you do want to ask any other questions, 11 a.m. every Sunday, including this Sunday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, our live show. We're going to kick things off with Daily Fantasy Talk. Me and Cody will both have lineups in, and Nick might throw one in as well. So we'll tell you our favorite picks, our favorite cash grabs of the week. We'll answer all your questions at 11:30. There's going to be an injury report that comes out from just about every team for the 1 o'clock games. Last week we had the breaking news of Trey Sermon on the show, and we were all shocked. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun this Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you enjoyed the show, and hopefully you did, please follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. On Twitter and Instagram, it's PrimeTimeFFPod. On Facebook, we're Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Also YouTube, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. If you did listen to us and enjoy it on iTunes, a 5-star review, please, please, please. They really do help us out. We're also on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts and anywhere else that podcasts are available. So please hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, another subscribe button and a like. We appreciate all of that. Nick, any parting words for you before we end this show?
Please, everybody, for all those religious people out there, say a prayer for my man Zach Wilson going up against those Patriots. It's going to be embarrassing. Let's hope it's best. That's all I got to say on that one.
What about you, Cody?
I'm hoping I'm a millionaire come Sunday. I'm hoping this Thursday night football game I finally hit that big hurdle and get there. Also, I got to give a shout out. I barely do anything for this show. I just show up, talk fantasy, make jokes, talk some DFS here and there, blah, blah. Nick Giacobbe does all of the producing. He does all the stuff behind the scenes. Nick Cap does all the graphics. Like, it's crazy. The graphics are nuts. I love it. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us some love. Hit the like button.
Thank you for that, Cody. I know me
Appreciate
and Nick both do appreciate that, and we do put a lot of work into the YouTube show. I have friends that have texted me that say that they love the live show, and not the live show, the YouTube version of it because of all the video. But I know everybody can't watch it. But again, the live show is another thing that we do put a lot of work into. So hopefully you guys are enjoying all the content and the videos that we've been posting on our social media. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram at @TheNickGiacobbe, I talk about just about everything besides fantasy football and my Seahawks. My Seahawks tweets were all positive last week. We'll see about this week. That's all I got. Again, the live show, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I can't plug it enough. 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're excited for it. It's week 2. Let's all win some money in daily fantasy. Let's win our matchups. Let's all win. That's a wrap. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday.